Let's talk some sports, baby.
Taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry. Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by Jones.
And remember, make tomorrow better than today, and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us. As a reminder to all our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube with each show segment available. Head on over. If you like what you hear, we would appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys? Happy to have Drink back on the show on this Saturday morning edition. How's it going, man?
He's back. It's the drink. It's the beer. It's the wisdom. Let's do it.
Let's talk some sports, baby. Let's roll, baby. I'm ready to get up in this thing.
Gave us an extra one coming back. I like it. And episode 86, two tight ends get paid. It's 76ers versus Celtics. And we preview a compelling series between the Thunder and Rockets. But we begin tonight with a look back in the world of college football. After a tumultuous week that was, we appear to have at least part of a season for now. So let's quickly recap. Earlier this week, the Big Ten and Pac-12 officials joined several smaller schools and conferences in postponing the 2020 season. Citing health concerns amid the coronavirus pandemic, the conferences are now shooting for the spring to play their fall sports. Meanwhile, the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 have all reaffirmed their commitment to playing the season on time, even after the Big Ten and Pac-12 announcements. Some schools like Nebraska have explored playing out of their conference, but so far none have made a serious attempt. So, Drink, we'll start with you on this one since we didn't get you last week. What are your thoughts on how the season might turn out?
Oh, God.
Well,
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Little wardrobe malfunction. Hey, here's the deal. As unfortunate as this pandemic has been for all of us, I do understand the safety, the health risk of all this. And before I lay it down on the Big Ten, I want to say that the decision that they made, it's no one to say they're wrong. It's no one to say they're right. They just made the best decision that they thought was the best for their conference, their region of what's going on. They're taking it day by day like the average citizen, right? And you have to understand these universities are responsible for these kids when they go into those houses and say, I'm going to take the best care of your child. You know, you can trust me. These are some of the decisions that go into taking the best care of their child. Now, getting that Lifetime Network stuff out the way, here's the deal. Let's go ahead and bring it into ESPN, Fox Sports 1, and you know what we're here for. If we go on to a season where we only have the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, and possibly the AAC, I see they still run around here. Put some respect on it, you know. If we have those four conferences, so be it. What's the problem? Listen, I for one would love to have the Big Ten around. I would love to have Ohio State specifically. I could live without Penn State and Michigan, but you know, you want to bring them aboard, I ain't mad at that. You want to bring them to one of the other three conferences and get something going, some super conference type deal going, I ain't mad at that. But if you give us Ohio State, we could live with the rest of it. I was talking to Jay about this earlier. Pac-12, who really gives a damn? Matter of fact, I got a question for Jay. Because I do think a lot of this conversation is around the conferences like the Pac-12. That's, you know, it's a Power 5 conference, and it's not going to be in the big dance. And then I'll go on with the rest of my thought on this. But, Jay, I got this question for you because you're such a huge Pac-12 fan.
Right.
I'm just curious, if you had to tell us the three teams that's missing out the most with the Pac-12 not playing a fall season, holler at your boy. Tell me a little something. Who you got? Who your top three over there at the Pac-12?
I got Oregon. That's it, Oregon.
All right. Well, it's not much of an argument here for that. I think it's a lot of citizens outside of the Pacific region, the West region, if you want to call it that, that might disagree with you, but everybody else, we like, hey, yep, Oregon, and that other team down there. So yeah, I would, I could say the second best team in the Pac-12 looks like Arizona State, but there's neither here nor there. But
and I say that to say I got Oregon, and then there's nothing else worth discussing, like nationally, and but we know this. No secret.
We do know this. So to get back to your question, Cody, I think we will have football. That's first and foremost. Like a lot of people think we won't have it. I think we will have football. Not only will we have football, we will have football with fans. We will have football with 15 to 25% of fans. Watch what I tell you. Look, down south, you have to understand this, right? Or we all have to understand this. We're from down south, right? Virginia, right? So Virginia, I'm Alabama, and Cody is Florida. We understand that football means something different in the southern region of the United States. It's not like it was easy for the Pac-12 to say, we're done, we don't care, we'll push back to spring. Football is not that main thing. It's also easier to me, outside of Michigan and Ohio State, for those teams in the Big Ten to say, listen, football is not as important. We want to focus on health, safety, even though the most safe place for these kids are inside our training facilities, but that's neither here nor there. But those football is just not the big thing now. When you come down south, in that southern eastern region, as they call it, football is just not only the thing, it's the way of life. That's all you hear. Football. From a little kid up to a college kid, football. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I want to hit on a point that Trevor Lawrence made. Trevor Lawrence said, I don't understand this. I understand that it's a pandemic going on and we need to take it serious, and health and safety is number one priority. However, what do you think this is going to do to us, the players, when you send us back into this pandemic? Because that's what you're doing. If they're not playing football, you don't want them. If you're making everybody do online schooling and this, that, and the third, you're sending these kids back into the pandemic. We talk about this all the time, Jay. Idle mind is the devil's workshop. So if you got a bunch of kids at your school that's there to play football, you recruited them to play football, you gave them a scholarship to play football, and they're not playing football, well, what in the hell do they supposed to be doing? Oh, by the way, the kids that you're in control of are in the age bracket where the coronavirus is doing the less damage to their age bracket. They're doing less damage. Oh, by the way, because you are NCAA institution and you can make all this money, you have the resources to test these kids all the time. I heard the quarterback from Alabama say they get tested 3 times a week. A lot of these kids probably won't get tested once if you send them back to their communities. Not once. So what's going to happen? You're going to open the school back up and they're going to bring the coronavirus back with them, and then you go through this all over again? I don't understand it. Make a bubble, make some sort of a bubble, just like, and let me caveat to the other sports. The NBA done tested how many people? 0 positive tested. The NHL, they tested over 600 0 tests. What was the other sport? It was one more other sport that started bubble, either soccer or something like that.
It was soccer. Soccer.
Okay. It had tested over 600-700 people. No positive testing. So the bubble works, folks. Bubbles work. All you have to do is sit down and figure out a bubble. You can't pull the MLB. I'm sorry, I ain't trying to beat up on the MLB, Jay, but listen, that program they're trying to do, that's not gonna work. You can't. You travel to this part, travel to that part, travel to this part. Now, have their numbers went outside of the whole Miami Marlins thing? Have the numbers been pretty good? I think so. But it's just very hard to maintain those numbers when you don't have a bubble because people are just going all over the place. And, I'm going to let MLB do what they do. $1 billion franchise, do what y'all do. But I just find it hard when I see the NBA, the UFC, and all these other organizations, they're utilizing a bubble, and their tests are down to none to very minimal testing positive. That's what college football is going to need to do. I'm sorry, that's what needs to happen. You need to figure out a way to make a bubble for the three conferences that want to play. And I guarantee you this: if they can figure out a bubble, those other two conferences might very well be willing to say, "Hold up, wait a minute. If we're gonna have a bubble, we might want to play now." You know what I'm saying? We don't want to play if y'all talking about this team going from Ohio to California, or from Texas to Wisconsin, where the case might be. That we don't want to participate in. But if you're gonna come up with a bubble, let's do it. And I'm on the player's side. They got the hashtag out. We want to play. I'm with them. You gotta come on, man. We gotta figure this out. The NFL, they figured out some things. You gotta figure out a way to get these kids to play. They're there for a reason. We're not even thinking about the future implications of them not playing. We're talking about right now. What it's doing to them right now. What might happen to them right now. We ain't even talking about the NFL future. We ain't talking about if you do say, all right, we won't play in the fall, we'll play in the spring. Well, the draft ain't moving. Last time I checked, the NFL draft ain't moving. What about the players like Sean Wade? I heard him talking. I ain't come back to Ohio State for this. He could have went to the draft. I didn't come back to Ohio State for this. Travis Etienne said, yo, I'm here. I'm trying to play. Like, why are we not playing? You cannot, and I challenge one of these top-tier sports analysts to tell me how is it safer to send a kid back to their environment, the product of their environment that they just came from, which it probably, for most of these kids, 85, 90% of these kids ain't average or above average, most likely below average. You're going to take them away from the school where they're the safest and send them back to their neighborhoods. I don't understand it. Maybe, Jay, you can shed a little light to make me see this clearly, but I don't understand it. The safest place for these kids are in the training facilities where they're getting tested multiple times, where they're doing what they came there to do, and they're focused on the positive. You go back home, think about this. When you go home on leave, how much negativity do you hear when you get home? You hearing about everybody's problems. This happened, that happened. Since last time you was here, this happened. Hey, you heard about such and such? Oh, he going through a hard time. He might need a little help from you. Now you became Jesus overnight because you got to solve a million problems. Hey, anybody got some of that water I can turn into wine? I need to make some bread. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel with these young kids, right? They've been off in college. They're at these top-notch colleges. Now they're going to go home and have to get dragged back into what's going on at home. Instead, they should be in the facilities, getting ready to play, bettering themselves, watching tape, whatever the case might be. I implore these conferences or the NCAA, whoever's going to be in charge of it, to find a way to make a bubble and make this happen. You are going to destroy a lot of these young men's life if you send them back to their homes. You're gonna do more to them than the coronavirus would do to them. I guarantee you. Yeah, and I understand the coronavirus could kill you. Yeah. 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids. Like, sorry, you're gonna have to give me something a little better than that. Because I feel like that neighborhood would destroy the kid faster than coronavirus. So yeah, that's my piece on it. I do think it's unfortunate, but I think somebody got to figure out a way to create a bubble to keep these kids where they at, keep them engaged, because you do not want to send these kids back because you're going to have drug addiction raising, crime raising, just straight stupidity, overall stupidity raising. You're going to have incidents like we're going to have in a rapid reaction where people just doing dumb stuff just because they ain't got nothing else better to do. So I hope they figure it out, but that's my piece on that. Over to you, Jay.
That's kind of the whole, what was it? The phrase was, we can't let the cure be worse than the virus, because if you just succumb to the virus and just lock everything down, then you're going to have, other things are going to, be taking lives, as we've seen. And there was a study done real recently, and I don't recall exactly who it was, but it was among 18 to 24-year-olds. There are mental health things that are like on the rise right now: anxiety, depression, and one in four within the study said they were having suicidal thoughts. So these are huge consequences. That if we're this afraid of the coronavirus, there are other things that are going to be attacking the lives of our citizens, and in this case, the college football players. So no, I don't have an explanation that differs from your opinion as far as where the safest place for these kids are. Because when you look at what Trevor Lawrence said, I don't think Trevor Lawrence was talking about himself. He was speaking on behalf of the other players, particularly, I would say, from the minority communities. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, most definitely. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Trevor Lawrence came from a good background, or what we perceive as a good background. But he know his teammates better than we know his teammates.
Right.
So yeah, you're right.
But so that would be the huge concern. And the college football, and much like we say the NFL, these two sports have had the opportunity to just lay back for months now and acquire all this information to make this happen. We know the NFL is moving forward. Now we've got the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 that say, and not only this, they said after the Big 10 and Pac-12 said, no, we're out. Well, they said, well, we're not following you this time. Because you recall, and we talked about this Tuesday, when originally everything got shut down during the conference tournaments, men's basketball conference tournaments, it was just like a domino effect. One conference said, okay, we're done, and then everybody else kind of followed in line. Not this time. There's a split. And it brings into question, I said this Tuesday, as a purist in a college football season, I want every Power 5 conference available, because I think, and Dabo Swinney disagrees, he says he doesn't think the college football championship will be tainted at all. I think it will, but I do think there's something to be said for pushing forward, accepting some level of risk, because you can't take the risk all the way down to zero. You just can't. We have a virus going on. There's going to be risk with playing. Go ahead.
A quick question for you. So you say you think it's going to be tainted. You think it's going to be tainted to what extent? Like how bad, of a stain will this championship be? Because I for one don't think it would be as tainted.
Well, I think we agree that the Pac-12, if the Pac-12 doesn't want to play and they want to succumb to, a letter from a players where they have all these different demands and they're, afraid of the coronavirus to that degree, then fine. Everyone has the opportunity to go ahead and opt out. I mean, you don't think like within the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 that if kids don't want to play in those scenarios, like we've already seen, Virginia Tech had a big first-round projected player that he's already opted out. So you can opt out. I think we need to give people the option to make their own decisions and accept whatever level of risk they're willing to accept, whereas just coming in a conference saying, okay, no one gets to play. No one gets to accept any risk. I don't think that's right. But I will say on the issue of the legitimacy of the national championship, I'm not saying it's going to ruin it completely, but the Big Ten's a legit operation with Ohio State always in the mix year in and year out. And then they've got the next level tier of teams that are at least in the rankings. Your Michigans, your Penn States, Wisconsin, and then I would throw Minnesota in there based off how they performed last season. Although you're right, we do want to see some consistency from them because last year was the first time we've really seen them. But it's just a purist thing for me because we've never seen something like this. It's always, it's a Power 5 for a reason. All these conferences are available. Now, to your point about a bubble, I don't know if it's feasible. I think it would be a huge undertaking for you to just have one bubble for everybody. I would say what you would probably want to do is have each conference have their own bubble, have their own little hub.
I was gonna say a regional bubble, but yeah, I guess it would be more of a conference bubble. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
I think the notion and the argument that this just can't be done and it's just too risky because based on what we know about the coronavirus, age has a lot to do with it. Younger people are way less susceptible to it. So when you bring that in consideration, it's really hard to accept an argument to where this can't be done and it can't be done in a safe way. And to your point about baseball, they've had their share of problems. I'm not going to deny that. But there also been reporting suggesting that these outbreaks, there are reasoning behind it, whereas people aren't mitigating properly. So yeah, if you don't mitigate properly, then yeah, the risk grows exponentially. So yeah, it is on people to have some individual discipline to not do stupid things that are gonna put more people at risk. I find it really hard to believe that it can't be done safely. And if we have 3 Power 5 conferences saying it can be done, then what are the Big Ten and Pac-12 doing? And last point, real quick, and I told this to Cody on Tuesday. I think there are some political undertones of this whole issue, and there was a graphic by Stadium, and it was just the 50 states, and it had it was color coded in 4 different categories. One was no FBS programs like Montana and your Dakotas and those type of places, and then the other 3 were you had red was all the schools, all the FBS schools within the state were playing. Another color, maybe green, where all the FBS schools were not playing, and then yellow was a mix. So a yellow example would be like Iowa within the Big Ten, Iowa State, Big 12, they were yellow. And if you overlaid that graphic over an electoral college map, there are a lot of similarities. And not saying that's the only reason, and that's a end-all be-all analysis, but we know how the Southeastern tends to vote, and those schools are playing. That's all I'm saying.
So I didn't see this map, but I'm assuming the SEC is red, right? Red for right.
The SEC and the ACC. And then how about this? Think about this as well. The ACC is predominantly a Southeastern conference. They got some Northeastern schools, though. Syracuse, Pittsburgh, Boston College. And I know Syracuse and Pittsburgh are already raising a stink and closing down practices because they've been having their share of issues. But where are they at? They're in the Northeast.
Yeah. As far as the bubble goes, one thing you have to look at is if that was going to happen, I feel like that would have to be a spring thing. Like they wouldn't probably have the time at this point to put it together within a month because, our kickoffs are, within a month or maybe 6 weeks.
Can I respond to that real quick?
No.
They don't have time for it. What the hell have they been doing?
Right. That's the problem.
I mean, what?
Yep.
Go ahead. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's a very good point. It's disappointing the NCAA with all this money and all the money these colleges make that they didn't feel like they didn't have enough of a plan besides, all right, every conference, just good luck. See, have fun. I just don't get it. And at the time, maybe they didn't have the wherewithal because we didn't know how well this NBA experiment was going to go. Remember, a lot of people were like, man, there's no way this is going to work. They're going to have to shut it down within 2 weeks. And, of course, it's been the complete opposite. It's been an outright complete success so far. But as far as, one thing I do look at, I'm a little concerned about is the SEC and ACC were pretty lockstep, right? But their decisions to play did hinge on the Big 10 or Big 12 playing. They said, we're going to see what these guys say because we want at least 60%. If the Big 12 is out, then we don't really want to just have a season with our 2 conferences, which, again, that gives you Alabama and Clemson, which gives you most of the national championships of the last few years, but still, it wouldn't feel very right. So I'm a little concerned because the Big 12 still seems like they're teetering. They did not have a unanimous vote. It was very mixed. They ultimately decided to go forward. But their language is always telling because when you listen to these presidents, these ADs, and the conference directors talk, you could tell the Big Ten, the Pac-12 were already leaning towards shutting things down. They never said, "Oh yeah, we're gung ho, we're doing it." It was always like, "Yeah, here's our schedule, we're going for it," But you could tell there was always this reservation of what they were trying to go for. And the Big 12 sounds like they're still a little bit on the fence with that. So that's something I would watch going forward is does the Big 12 get cold feet? If we get one more, serious case of it, are they going to go, oh, wait, never mind, and pull the plug? And then this whole thing, the whole house of cards comes down. And also I'm really interested to see how is the NCAA going to handle transfers? Are we going to let players transfer out of the Big 10 and out of the Pac-12? Imagine if a high-profile player like a Justin Fields said, all right, well, I came to Ohio State to win championships. I'm done. Yeah, hey, Florida, hey, Auburn. How many teams does he just make a contender just like with a snap of his fingers? So are they going to allow that? Because the Big 12 or the Big 10 and the Pac-12 teams have said we're shooting for the spring. Now, again, that's not a very solid commitment, but they are at least leaning towards the spring. Is that enough of a reason? We've seen just I'm up in my fields. That's been enough to transfer and play immediately. So I don't, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't, but that's going to be really interesting how the NCAA handles that. And, as far as the decisions made, I mean, they're talking to different doctors and they're going to give different opinions. It's any professional in any field, there's no clear consensus on most things. Like people think with something like, medical professionals, that there's one answer and that's the only answer. No, it's every medical professional reviewed, and some of them found an acceptable level of risk in an already dangerous sport amid the pandemic. And some of them said, it's probably not best to go forward with it. So we'll see, guys. I mean, this is not the last time we're going to talk about the subject. I guarantee you that. So just for a quick wrap up, the ACC and Big 12 are slated for a September 12th kickoff, a second weekend of the month, while the SEC is scheduled to get underway on the 26th. So we got plenty of time, 4 to 6 weeks for this to still shake out. So we'll see how it is, and we'll keep you guys informed.
And how about this? Just to go back to the Pac-12 real quick. You know why no one cares about the Pac-12? There's been 6 college football playoffs. Y'all been to 2 of them. And you haven't been to the title game since the first one. That's why.
That one stings a little bit for me. Yeah.